Introducing Instagram Teen Accounts, a new way to keep your teens safer as they grow, like making sure they've got the right gear for riding.
Knee pads.
Check.
And helmet?
Done. See you, Dad.
New Instagram Teen Accounts, automatic protections for who can contact your teen and the content they can see.
6 months from now, you could be running a 5K, booking that dream trip, or seeing thicker, fuller hair every time you look in the mirror. Through Hers, you can get dermatologist-trusted, clinically proven prescriptions with ingredients that go beyond what over-the-counter products offer. Whether you prefer oral or topical treatments, Hers has you covered. Getting started is simple. Just fill out an intake form online, and a licensed provider will recommend a customized plan just for you. The best part? Everything is 100% online. If prescribed, your treatment ships right to your door. No pharmacy trips, no waiting rooms, and no insurance headaches. Plus, treatments start at just $35 a month. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/talk. That's FORHERS.com/talk. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.
Empire. Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone, Happy Tuesday everybody. RFK baby, RFK. It's kinda happening. Pretty cool.
We are so back, as the kids say. So back.
Yeah. First and foremost, I'll get into the deal in a second. Callow wasn't on yesterday because he ran a marathon on Sunday. If you're watching this on YouTube, he couldn't sit down as of 2 minutes ago. He's like an old man trying to move his body. So, how you feeling?
Still very, very sore. This marathon, I was up in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. You start off in, Whitehaven, I think is north of that town. It's in the Poconos. It's all in the Poconos.
Whitehaven, hon.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I will just say I knew it was downhill, so I was expecting pretty easy, but I knew it was going to be a grind, except that downhill the entire time was something my body was not prepared for. I was already
that's true.
I was getting sore like 6 miles in. So the mental battle of about 20 miles, maybe a little less, was a life-changing experience pretty much of like, what are you made out of? And I was 15 minutes faster than Marine Corps. So cutting 15 minutes off in 6 months, I'll take it. And yeah, it was a learning experience, but I enjoyed myself.
I guess I never thought about that. Like going downhill the whole time, after a while, like you must feel like you're going to fall down or something. Like your momentum gets ahead of you. Like, honestly,
you get this weird sense of like, I don't know, like you get this weird body balance thing, because then when I hit flat ground, it was really weird. Like, cause I had been running for 4 hours on the decline. And so when I finally hit like the parking lot where it finished, I had to take a minute to just like stand and do nothing, because your body and your eyesight too of constantly looking down was a little bit weird. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. This one too, personally, was about the process too. Like, you've known me a long time. I've used this job and working caps as like an excuse to not, be in the best shape ever. I trained for a marathon during the most busy time of season for myself. And that was really what this one was about. Not exactly the marathon. So
I'll bring that up today. I'm speaking to a class at George Mason today. And maybe I always bring up like, what's life like in this industry? Maybe I'll bring up, you will eat poorly.
Yeah, 100%. You will. It isn't even that. You will eat poorly. You will sleep poorly, which I found during this training cycle was actually my biggest like thing that I had to settle down and do. Like, read a book instead of being on my phone at 10 o'clock, which is not something I'm used to, but I found out sleep was so important to recovery. And yeah, like I used this job as an excuse to not be the healthiest person in the world. This was my kind of like put up or shut up. Let's do this moving forward. So that it was really about the process and getting it done, essentially.
All right, very cool. Obviously, yesterday was a historic day here in the area, in the city. Not only just the district, I think for the area. The RFK deal was announced. It is not finalized. Let's be very clear about that. The city council needs to approve this. They're going to need 7 votes to do it. And notably, There were only 4 members of the city council in attendance yesterday. That was pointed out by one of the reporters. I can't remember who, that there's only 4 there. There have been 2, one publicly stated on social media that this person's a no vote on it. And Phil Mendelson, who's the chair of the DC City Council, went on WJFK yesterday and stated at this point, I want to get the quote right because I don't want to, misquote a politician here. But I believe the quote was, right now it would be a no, but he left open the possibility that he can be convinced that this is the right thing to do for the city. Regardless, yesterday was a historic day. It was held at the National Press Club. I was honored to be asked to MC it. So that was one for the books for me personally, obviously, to be part of something like that. It's very full circle for me. I got some FaceTime with the commissioner yesterday. That was really cool. We got to actually talk about him living in, not up on stage, but like beforehand, I talked to him a lot about growing up in DC. This is a mission project for him too. That became very apparent. I don't know, it was probably a year and a half ago, not this past December, but the December before, where they had a meeting, and I can't remember, it was an owners meeting, or was something. It was some major, get together with the media. And when he stated it was important for him to try to get the stadium back at RFK. Well, now suddenly you have the power of the NFL behind the whole project. Still, the legislation had to pass Congress, which it did before the change of the administration. There are some, I don't know what they are exactly, but hangups in the budget for 2025. Muriel Bowser stated we're talking about 2026 because, essentially, this needs to be approved. They wouldn't break ground until next year. The timeline they put on it was winter next year that they would actually start to break ground if this were to get approved. I'll show you some of the renderings in a moment. There's only a couple. Those, by the way, are not official. I'll reiterate that when I show you them because the design of the stadium is not set in stone, but some renderings of what they're thinking about to put down there are there. There are some limitations. There's going to only be 8,000 parking spots for a 65,000 seat stadium. Do the math there. There's not going to be a tremendous amount of tailgating, at least not in a traditional sense. I would think a lot of the parking will probably be part of a garage and not out open air because of the way the land is situated and the amount of the land that needs to be used for open space and parkland as part of the lease moving forward. So there's a lot of things that are going to be a little bit different about this. That whole area could become a tailgating space, stretching all the way down to the wharf, all the way up the river to what would be the new RFK. So there's a lot of options, but I think the traditional tailgating, it won't be part of it. There will be a roof on this thing. I'll show you the renderings in a moment, but there will be. Partially because if they are going to do this, and I agree with this, listen, I'm for open air stadiums too. I love the elements, but the reality is it doesn't become a 365-day-a-year venue if you don't have a roof on it in an area like this. They want to host the World Cup. They want to host major college football games. They want to have WrestleMania. They want to have the Taylor Swift Eras Tour. They want to have these things, and if they line up to come in February, there has to be a roof on the stadium. So, that's just the reality. Could it be a retractable one? I suppose, but that didn't sound like the direction they were going. All in all, though, it was really a remarkable day. When I got to introduce Roger Goodell, Josh Harris, Muriel Bowser, the crowd was raucous, like they were cheering, for this. And I would yes, there are going to be some people there that, that clearly that work with the mayor's office and are very supportive of what she's trying to do here. There are fans of the team. They're going to be in the audience and are cheering for this to happen. But I actually feel like the whole area, if you think about it, and put aside the people who just don't think public money should be spent on building a stadium, or the people who live down in that area that are concerned, obviously, about what a new stadium would mean to their neighborhood. And those people, I think largely if you ask the area, where do you want a new stadium to go? They're going to say this spot. They're going to say it's where it should go. And they're going to say karmically, it's where the team belongs. So I actually felt like the room wasn't sycophants. It was really just everybody kind of cheering on what was a momentous, historic day for the city. And I think the region at large, because I think the region at large, and I'm from Maryland, live in Maryland now, love Maryland. I believe the team belongs there. I hope that their presence remains in the state of Maryland in some way. And I'll get to Wes Moore and what he said in a minute, and what I hope the team does to make good on this site. If they were to move away from Northwest Stadium, make good on that site to redevelop this land in coordination with the Maryland government to make it beneficial for all parties and make this a place that's worthwhile to go to. Don't have a white elephant out off of the Beltway in Landover. And I believe that the organization is going to be willing to do that. But I think in my heart, and I think in everybody's heart, the reason why everyone's so excited about this is I think everybody knows it's where it belongs. And, there's going to be a beautiful new stadium somewhere, but it really should be there. And I think we all kind of feel that way.
No, and I also would just say, just to piggyback off of everything, that this, I don't think you could have predicted when the stadium was built in Landover that by the time the life cycle of it being over with, that RFK was still going to be undeveloped, right? I think that's actually the most shocking thing really about the last 30 years is that essentially the opportunity has represented itself to bring them back where they used to play because there has been no movement on that site whatsoever. It's a no-brainer to just put them back where they belong. The opportunity is still there. This isn't like they developed it really fast after DC United left for Audi. They did nothing with it. They left that opportunity. And I know you haven't gotten into the numbers, but the Commanders are mostly paying for it. The public money that's going towards it is not that much in retrospect, looking at all of the other deals that kind of happen around the country. And as you just said, it's going to be covered. It means that the events they're going to bring in it's going to pay for itself for the city very, very fast, I think. I just can't believe how well this all has been wrapped up front to back, essentially. There are really no holes in the plan, barring approval, of course. But It's really amazing just how good it all is. I just don't think we're used to that. It's gonna. I was bracing for they're gonna go to RFK, but the public money is gonna be $3 billion or whatever, and people have legitimate gripes with that. The fact that we are just at the point now where everything is kind of gravy, that's what I'm more surprised at than anything.
Yeah, this is the part of the conversation where I just want to be open. I don't know how the budgets work. I don't know how much money DC has. I would say now that they have the opportunity to redevelop the land, and it's going to be redeveloped in some way, and the mayor is hoping that it will be for this purpose to start with. If things don't go well, then they will redevelop it in a different way. So that's the good news. All along, I've been on the side of DC should be in control of a valuable tract of land in their city, and it shouldn't have a decrepit old stadium just sitting there where millions of dollars are being spent to not keep it up, but it's a waste and it's blight and it needs to be fixed and removed to whatever degree. But when it comes to public funds, I don't want to sit here and pretend that I know what they have, how they should be used, etc. But I would say this, I do believe that whatever redevelopment occurs, whether it's a stadium or anything else, the city is going to have to put money into that for infrastructure, no matter what it is. So this is money to me that is going to be spent either way in general. There isn't anyone's going to come in there and isn't going to have the city put over some of the price tag off of public money for infrastructure. And we can argue whether, the NFL and billionaire owners, et cetera, are deserving of that public money for their purposes. But that money is going to be spent either way, in my opinion. And if Tom Sherwood or Kojo Nandi wants to call me and tell me that that's different, they can. I don't believe that. Public money is going to be used either way for redevelopment, no matter what the project actually is. Would it be to this degree? I don't know, frankly. But there's just no way around that the city wouldn't be a partner with some redevelopment firm to do whatever they wanted to do. Secondarily, I hate doing this comparison thing, but I saw this yesterday. The amount of public money that's going into the new Buffalo Stadium, the amount of public money that's going into the new Tennessee Stadium, it is that dwarfs what is proposed here. It's something in the neighborhood of 25% public money, and the rest will be privately funded by the ownership group and potentially the NFL, but likely the ownership group. And that is a far cry from what the number is in Tennessee or Buffalo or other public-private relationships to build new stadiums around the country. So I hate doing the comparison thing, but the reality is if you're going to, this does sound like a better deal. And I know the people who are, complaining about doing this at all are never going to hear anything about it unless it was completely privately funded, start to finish, no public money whatsoever, which is an impossibility. But it is far, far, far lower. It is a massive investment by the group in the NFL into the city itself. And I would hope that there is a pathway where everybody, as Muriel Bowser said yesterday, this is a win-win-win. We're going to get ROI. They're going to get ROI, and everybody wants this to happen, with the exception of some people that are just against stadium builds in general. Or I will hear out the neighbors who live down there and go, in the end, we don't want blight, but we're not really sure we want a stadium running. And I'll hear out their complaints. They're going to be a minority in all of this.
No, I mean, but I would say this, like, I've talked to just as many people that do live down there that are excited about it because they saw what's happened to the Wharf, to Nats Park, to these new redeveloped kind of parts of the city, that their property values might go up, probably will go up. So I think you're actually going to probably see more of a split than you think. I also use this argument too. That stadium's been sitting there. What did you think was going to happen? I always throw that out there, as well. To one thing too, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it here for just a sec, because you mentioned it earlier too, about the roof. Like that's normal practice now. And I'm sorry, like, I live here. I love it here. I'm a DMV native, but like, our weather sucks. There's no reason to have an open stadium in this area for what, the 3 days a year that spring is good, like, or the 3 days a year that the fall is good. Pat, yeah. I'm good. Give me the roof. I'm all right with this.
So, here's the renderings. I'll throw them up here really quickly so you get a chance to see them. This was JP Finley's account was posted here. The pictures have been spread around by a packet that the team and the city put out yesterday. You could see, I want to reiterate. I mean, I was basically told these are not finalized renderings. This is this is the concept, the essential concept of what they're looking at. You see what the outside looks like, and the inside. I do believe no matter what the design ends up being, that viewpoint of having the monuments or the Capitol in the background is very important. The great shots always of RFK that were shown, on the telecasts of the flyovers where you see the monuments, you see the power of the city, you see the beauty of the city, is important to bring back here. Roger Goodell had talked about, this could be the most important stadium that the league has. Because of that point, it's in Washington proper. It has visuals of some of the most important buildings in the world. So I believe that as you look at the interior, at least rendering view, that will happen no matter what the final design is that you will have viewpoints of the monuments if possible. And then there is the roof. And I just don't believe, especially with our weather, even though it's not as extreme as Green Bay or Buffalo or Cleveland or New England or anything like that, that the reality is, if you want to have a Super Bowl, there will have to be a roof on this building. If you want to have the Eras Tour, there will have to be a roof on this building. If you want to have WrestleMania, there will have to be a roof on this building. Like, yes, they've done open air stadiums before. The likelihood of them saying yes to a world-class facility is more, and it makes it a 365 venue. And if you're going to put this kind of money into this kind of building, it cannot be a football-only thing. And I'll say this too, listen, it's possible that other teams could utilize this as well. Like, what's to stop eventually DC United or the Washington Spirit from being part of utilizing this stadium, if it warrants being in a building that is that large? Could there be major college football games that occur in a stadium like this? Could there be eventually a World Cup if they were ever come around again? The Olympics, if it would ever come around again? There's a lot of opportunities here. It also could be a hub. There's been discussions in the past about Washington becoming a soccer hub. So if they had what ended up being a stadium that was utilized for the national teams, that's been talked about in the past. So I do think there's a lot of uses for this thing. And as far as the renderings go, they're just the renderings. And, have you feel however you want to feel. I actually like the idea of a glass roof. If they actually went through with something like that, where you'd at least get the sun or the clouds or the rain. You get the kind of that feel of that, but we'll see if that's the direction they would actually go in finality.
No, I'm with you 100% on the glass roof. Like, I actually look at SoFi as the kind of blueprint of what this stadium's going to be. This is the new modern stadium. And to the people that say, get a retractable roof, it's literally like I think the estimate is $400 to $600 million more. So you're telling me you want to have the roof for a possibility to be open for 4 or 5 games, like for that much money? I'm good. Like, pass on that one. I'm with you. I think the glass ceiling is fine. And it's not really glass. It's, whatever material they use, because I see people freaking out about that. But whatever material they use, I'm with that. I think that's the way you go here. As I said, I don't think our weather's anything to brag about. Like, Buffalo, it's funny. Buffalo was thinking about a roof. And then when the NFL said, we're not going to give you a Super Bowl, they're like, all right, screw it. We're not going to have a roof on the new stadium, which is the way I think you should go, because that's just the way it's going to go. And they're never going to have a World Cup or a WrestleMania or, any of those other major events. They're just not the same market. We are, though. And so now I see, like, this should be the way that we go here, because we have the potential to get all of those things that you just mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think this is stuff for down the road when real renderings come out. But if you are going to go in this direction, like, recall what's happened with Dallas here, where when the sun is setting in a certain way, that it affects games in a way that shouldn't really be affected. And listen, I'm always for home field advantages and things like that, but blinding sunlight coming through is no good for anybody. So they're going to have to think, if they're going to do this kind of open air-esque feel to it, they got to think about directionally, where's the sun going to go? Where's it going to be? And how it might affect games, because they're going to play it every time of day. Now they're going to play at night. They're going to play during the day. They're going to play at 1 o'clock. They're going to play at 4 o'clock. It's going to be affecting. They're going to play at night. They're going to play at night early in the season when it's light out, then turns dark. So they got to think about all these things as they kind of move forward here. All right. One of the big questions is going to be, will the DC City Council approve it? Again, I defer to Tom Sherwood, Kojo Nandi, Mark Seagraves, Eric Flack, all the people who've been covering that part very, very closely. I don't know. And I think so. This was a historic day. It was a historic announcement. The council has to approve this. It is going to take 7 votes. Notably, only 4 members of the council were in attendance yesterday. So there's work to do here. And I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out. Even after this announcement yesterday, I think one of the most positive things about it, I've been talking about this for a few weeks, is how quiet any resistance has been to it. And because it's been happening behind the scenes, when you don't hear anything about it, more people are on board. When things get loud and messy and get very public very quickly, that's when you know that there's true resistance. So I did see, I don't remember which council member did publicly state that they're a no on this because they don't want to pay for stadiums. And that's just the position that they've taken no matter what. I haven't heard any other definitive, there probably might be a couple others that have spoken, I just haven't seen it. I haven't heard any other definitive no's. So the general reaction to yesterday, having this press conference and then waiting for the politicians who are going to decide whether this is going to happen or not, I haven't seen a lot of public resistance yet. And even the Phil Mendelssohn interview, which I'm just citing off of WJFK, he didn't say no. He said no for now. So I feel like the momentum is still there, but obviously it's not done till it's done.
No, absolutely. I mean, this one screamed to me. Even they realize, all right, we're really close. What are going to be some of the things we can kind of grab here, to get this over the line? And whether that's, some kind of charity activation or something with the schools or some kind of, different kind of housing. What I'm getting at here is it's 99% done. The 1% is going to be crossed over with both of these parties, and they're going to figure it out.
Yes,
the handshake agreements are happening right now. And this is why no one came out to resist it. I think they realize that's a really good deal. Not pretty much how we started, right? The Commanders are going to pay for 3/4 of this thing. All right, I don't think we could do much better, especially with all the other teams in the area. And they can go to another jurisdiction. This seems like a win-win for us. Let's see what else we can, what I's we can dot, what T's we can cross, and then let's get it over with. That's pretty much how I feel about this. It's going to get done. They just have a couple caveats that they want to talk about.
We do have some examples in this city, because this goes back and forth in a lot of different places. A stadium can be an anchor for a part of town, and it can be something that kind of weighs down a part of town. Sure. In Denver, Colorado, Coors Field is an anchor for a part of town that got redeveloped years and years and years ago. Camden Yards is an anchor for the Inner Harbor area. Not that the Inner Harbor needed a tremendous amount, but Camden Yards and the Raven Stadium, M&T Bank, are anchors for that area. For us, the Capital One Arena is an anchor for downtown DC. I think a lot of what, Ted complained about was help us keep this area free of crime, free of a lot of the issues that are going on here. We bring a lot of people down here. It's an anchor for all of these businesses around here. But if you don't help us, I think that was kind of part of his point about the move to Virginia. If you don't help us keep our neighborhood sound, then we need to talk about all of that stuff. Nats Park and Audi Field are anchors for what is a rebirth of the Navy Yard and that area of town and what's going to happen. You see all the redevelopment that's happening even across the main road there, South Capitol Street, where you see what's happening near Audi Field and all the redevelopment that's happening, businesses, housing, all this stuff. RFK can be this too. We have examples of it being an anchor in our town. In some cases, when they're put in the wrong place, it can be a white elephant at times. That's what happened with Landover. Nothing developed around it. Whose fault is that? Is that the Maryland government's fault? Is that the Washington football team's fault? Is that both of their fault that nothing ever really redeveloped around there? I don't know. You'd probably have to ask the politicians, the stakeholders, and the previous administration. What it sounds like here is that the Harris Group wants to work openly with the city to redevelop this in a way that obviously is going to be extremely beneficial to the team and extremely beneficial to them, but beneficial to everybody. I mean, I think they're honestly trying to do that. And, I would go even further, and this is another reason why I think we all think this is happening, is Westmore all but conceded that this is going to happen because not only in his statement did he talk about, we knew that this was a possibility and we had been preparing for this to be a possibility. We wanted to keep the team in Maryland, and we still would be open to keeping the team in Maryland and all the right things you're supposed to say. But the long statement that he put was all but a concession of, we know this is happening. We know this is something the team wanted to have happen. At the same time, what we want from the group is to know that we're not going to be stuck with blight off of the Beltway and Landover. We want to work with you to do something that is for the good of all of our constituencies as well. And the statement all but implied that they're off to a good start with all of that. And then they did what I think was a really smart thing. He said, we're putting a timeline on this. This new stadium opens within this certain amount of time. We want demolition, and we want to know what we're doing. We want to work with you about a redevelopment of that area ongoing at the same time. So when you open this new stadium and you leave us permanently, our plan of action of what's next is coming. And all but insinuated that process has started, and he's going to push them to make good on all of that. But it does, again, sound like all of the key stakeholders are all on the same page. And, you have to see what the end result is, obviously, with what gets built at RFK if it gets built and what gets built in Landover if Northwest Stadium is torn down. But it sounds like everyone believes that everyone's doing what's in the best interest for all of these neighborhoods, even if it is, sorry to say it, beneficial to the ownership group for building a stadium.
No, of course. I would say this too, though. Even Westmore knew this was the 1 seed. We all knew it was the 1 seed, but he didn't even try to sugarcoat it that maybe there's a possibility. No, he knows where they wanted to go and that they are going home, so to speak. Yeah, it's going to be beneficial to the team. But once again, they are fronting the bill for most of this. So that's the trade-off here. And I'm okay with that. And what it sounds like here, and I don't think it's being lost in the shuffle, but I don't think it's being talked about enough, is Josh Harris seems to very much put wanting to be a pillar of the community first and profit second. Don't get me wrong. The guy's going to need to make money to get the return on investment of his franchise.
Yes, this is not charity. This is not charity.
Of course not. But he is, and he has taken a totally different tone. And I know we're comparing one of the worst owners ever with Dan, but it's even different than a lot of other owners where he is really going out of his way to say, tell me what you don't like about this, and I'll pretty much try to make it right. The people that didn't want the stadium downtown, I hear you. But at the same time, you were never going to get this much money paid for by the team with the last administration. I didn't even think we would do it with this one. So I think what's happening here too is there's this, all the olive branches are being put out there too to say, I'm trying to redevelop and kind of rebrand us as you can rely on us now. We are not the same old burgundy and gold that you're used to. And I think this goes back to, Landover not being a white elephant right off of the Beltway. That's a decent chunk of land. You can assume somebody would come along and buy it and redevelop it, but you do want it to be done the right way. I don't know if you know this, but like when that stadium was built, it was built so long ago, the base structure of the stadium can be turned into a shopping mall. So I know they're not doing that anymore because those like don't exist anymore, right. But like there was a plan, right. Like literal plan in place to do that. I doubt that like they're going to use that structure, but what I'm getting at here is the team, I think, does feel a responsibility to keep the footprint there as well. What can we turn this into and actually build that area up just a little bit too?
Before we go in this topic, you know me, Callow. I don't like to talk about myself that much when I'm involved in things like this, but I do just want to really kind of publicly thank the team for, giving me the opportunity to have a small part in that yesterday. That was a full circle moment for me. I grew up in Silver Spring. I went to the old RFK as a kid because I had a friend whose brother fortunately didn't like football. They had an extra ticket. My parents bought that ticket. I went with him and his grandparents to the games. I attended one of the NFC Championship games the year that Washington beat Denver in the Super Bowl. That's the Darrell Green made the play at the goal line on Darren Nelson. I remember driving through the city and seeing everybody outside just cheering, honking their horns. There wasn't a single, I lived the glory years of Washington football and always wanted to do this job. And I've been very fortunate to have done 5 and, heading into a 6th season with the team doing this. And yesterday is up there. I mean, I got to call a Hail Mary last year. I got to call an NFC Championship game. I got to call the best season they've had since 1991. There's been a lot of really, and even like I've said this before, like as much as we got on Ron about what was going on here, there wasn't a day that went by that I wasn't so privileged and honored to call their games, even when the team had bad seasons. And because it's that important. And so yesterday for them to ask me to MC something like that, I just can't thank them enough for letting me have a small part in that. Like I'm not taking any credit for it. It really was. Seeing pictures of me standing up there with them doing that was really surreal. And I thank them so much for giving me that. It's something I'm never going to forget for the rest of my life. And it feels very full circle to me. So I really, truly, deeply have a deep appreciation for them asking me to do that yesterday.
No, my first reaction yesterday was, you better get a 16:9 photo of that framed with you, Harris, Bowser, and Goodell, because that's like that. Even I was like, that's really freaking cool, knowing what the moment was too. So hope you get a giant frame of that put up somewhere.
They are. I already ran into the team photographer yesterday. I go, you have to send me everything you have, and it really was a historic moment, and it was pinch me for me to even be part of any of it. So it was really incredible. All right, let me take a quick break. Well, I'm gonna talk because we haven't talked to you about the draft and what the draft class looks like. So we'll do that next. Brave Watch the Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. Baseball season is in full swing, and we've just started the NBA and NHL playoffs, which has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB, NHL, and the UFC, Bet Online remains the number one online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the Bet Online Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and a live casino. Bet Online. The game starts here.
6 months from now, you could be running a 5K, booking that dream trip, or seeing thicker, fuller hair every time you look in the mirror. Through Hers, you can get dermatologist-trusted, clinically proven prescriptions with ingredients that go beyond what over-the-counter products offer. Whether you prefer oral or topical treatments, Hers has you covered. Getting started is simple. Just fill out an intake form online, and a licensed provider will recommend a customized plan just for you. The best part? Everything is 100% online. If prescribed, your treatment ships right to your door. No pharmacy trips, no waiting rooms, and no insurance headaches. Plus, treatments start at just $35 a month. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/talk. That's forhers.com/talk. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.
All right, welcome back. I spent a lot of time yesterday with John Keim, Let me apologize. I was at 11 a.m. when the show was live. Obviously, I was hosting the event yesterday at the National Press Club. I didn't know I obviously knew I was emceeing it. And I didn't mention it in the show because I didn't know when the team was going to mention it and all that stuff. And so I just didn't mention it yesterday. So because I just didn't want, I was sworn to secrecy about the whole thing. So anyway, that's why if you listen to the show yesterday, you didn't hear a word about it because I just decided I'll let the thing play out. We'll talk about it today, which we just did. Anyway, we haven't had an opportunity to talk about the rest of the draft. When we last spoke, they had only made their first-round pick, Josh Connerly. Friday, they selected Trey Amos with their second-round pick, the corner out of Ole Miss. And then they had 3 picks on Saturday. They used it on a speed wide receiver, Jalen Lane out of Virginia Tech. A guy who I'm going to ask him if this is okay because his name is a mouthful, a running back out of Arizona who I'm affectionately calling JCM because there's just no way I'm getting his whole name. I'd be like, I got to call this guy's Gabe's. I got to get that out. And then they took a undersized but extremely athletic linebacker who has a connection to Ken Norton with their 3rd pick. So they ultimately did not trade back. They did not get any more assets. It's a 5-man draft class. But I would say this overall, my general reaction was there was a lot of purpose behind each and every one of these picks that they thought through why they wanted these people. I'm not surprised they got a running back who's got explosive tendencies. I'm not surprised they got a wide receiver who's got explosive tendencies and can be a punt returner. And likely that's his path to making the team, at least initially. None of us are surprised it took an offensive lineman, especially one that plugs in as a starter. And corner was the way the wind was blowing for a first-round pick by the end of the week. I'm not surprised that their second pick was a corner that they'll tell you they rated much higher than where they got him. The only one that it's not a reach, it's just they took a really good athlete at a position where they're looking for some depth. And will Kane Madonna get on the field very much? I mean, I don't see a path to a lot of that, but maybe he's a special teamer. Maybe he plays a little bit more. He's better in coverage than I think the linebackers they have currently. That might be shorting Jordan McGee a little bit, but that's something that he specialized in at UCLA. Each and every one of these picks were very purposeful to me.
No, especially him. I would say as well, I keep talking about roster turnover every year. Well, that's somebody that even if he doesn't start this year, he will be a special teamer. And that is one person you can lock in on your roster for the next couple of years if he's good enough. And as far as the top picks, going literally offensive line, cornerback, wide receiver, that was about chalk, right? We all kind of knew those were going to be the 3 positions taken.
Running back too. I mean, the whole time I'm you're taking a running back in the draft. There was no way they weren't. They hadn't done anything in free agency, and I know they want more explosiveness out of the position.
Yeah, I think I had said cornerback, offensive line, offensive weapon. I didn't care if it was running back or wide receiver. They went with both, and I'm okay with that. Same thing here, and I've settled in on this the last month. It's what could you impact right now that's going to make a difference on the roster? And I didn't see the edge rushers impacting the roster as much as some of these other positions. Perfectly fine with it. Getting Amos at cornerback too. The pressure is going to be off from him to perform right away, especially being a second-round pick. He can learn a little bit, but I really like that unit now overall with who they've got there in a mix of young guys and veterans. I really like that unit overall right now. Offensive line, we talked about it on Friday. I love what that unit looks like when they're healthy, 1 through 5. That's a strength to me. And then taking a couple offensive weapons, taking a flyer on a linebacker, I'm all right with this. Would I have loved for them to trade back? Sure. But what really caught my eye, this, and we talk about it all the time, Peters doesn't say much, but there's some things that kind of slip through. On Friday, when he said they had plenty of people calling them about that pick, and they still decided to take Connerly, my ears kind of perked up of, okay, they're valuing these guys a little bit more than maybe I thought they were, or they had targets on certain guys that they actually really, really value. And so if they're not trading back, I also kind of hold these guys into a little bit higher regard of, oh, these are guys that they really wanted and that they needed. And so I trust them, because how could you not trust this regime at this point? Yes. So that's where I kind of landed at the end of it with just the 5 picks.
They needed another corner, but they needed another corner who specifically plays on the outside. That's what they got here. Again, this is very purposeful. Not only did they need another corner, they needed someone out there. They want Sanders still to play out inside. So this hopefully gives them the opportunity for them to do that. If Amos is ahead of the curve, Jonathan Jones is the primary backup and a fail-safe if Marshawn Lattimore is not healthy. Noah Igbenogany is a clear primary backup as a slot corner for them. Sanders still can move around, but the object is to put him in the middle of the field. That's what they want to do with him, and that's where Amos is. So it wasn't just getting a corner. It's getting a specific type of corner that plays the specific part of the field that they want him to play. So it was all very, very, very purposeful. All right. I want to let this go because I think everybody needs to let this go. And I talked about this yesterday, but I need to talk to somebody about it. And I want to let it go. But the Shedeur stuff, because it became the story of the draft. He ended up being a 5th round pick of Cleveland. There were periods of time where people thought he might be the number 1 quarterback selected. That changed pretty early in the process. But then most people thought he'd be the number 2 or at worst 3 quarterback selected. He wasn't. And then there was a tremendous amount of discussion about how he conducted himself in interviews. Or I would say this, he and his father both insinuated at various points in time during this process, they may or may not want to go to certain places, things like that. And then you and I have talked about this a lot, and this is just my opinion of watching him. I just don't see an NFL star quarterback there. I could be totally wrong about that, and he could end up becoming a really, really great quarterback. But I do think he's a project, and I think he's going to have to get better. And the skill sets that whether it's a high level of athleticism, Cam Ward has it, Jaden obviously has it, Caleb has it in a different way, Lamar Jackson has it, Kyler Murray has it, or you have to have this kind of extreme processing skill that Drake may have, Tom Brady did have, to Bo Nix appears to have. They need. I don't see either one of those things with him. And that's why I look at him and I'm like, I don't think he should have fallen to the 5th round, which I think is what really made this controversial. But him not being a very high pick is not a surprise to me at all. And the part that really got me about the whole thing over the weekend was the hill everybody was willing to die on about that, which I love Mel. And this is not going after Mel specifically. But I was genuinely surprised at how hard he went at all of this, because it's like one of the first times ever, I just totally don't agree that this guy should have been the number 3 overall pick and fell to the 5th round. I didn't think he was a 1st round pick personally. 5th round, I hear you. That seems weird, but way high, can't miss quarterback prospect. I didn't see that. And that's why I found this controversy really unusual at the length to which people were talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought that for some reason the draft experts didn't weigh enough the baggage that Shedeur comes with. Like, it's his last name. It is Dion. It is the way that he conducted himself. I told you, I think on Thursday, it was irking me that Mike Florio went crazy about the anonymous scout that said worst interview he ever had. And I remember he openly talked about tanking interviews. Like,
yes.
There was so much baggage that was coming along with this guy. And don't get me wrong, if he was, Peyton Manning or, a guy like Jaden Daniels or even Caleb Williams, like the super special guys, he would have been taken. But when there are doubts about that I don't want to call him like an okay quarterback, but when there are serious doubts of whether he's going to be a pro and it comes with that baggage, people don't want to deal with that. Like, remember 10, 15 years ago with Tim Tebow? Tim Tebow was a mediocre quarterback, but he had some magical moments. But remember, other teams are going, we're not touching that dude with the 10-foot pole because then the media circus comes to town, right? Like, I feel like analysts lost the plot a little bit of these guys' character and what they come along with is a part of being drafted. And whether his last name is Sanders or not, that's why he slipped. And you know what, though? He's a 5th round pick. The pressure's off of him being amazing, but it also is a chip on his shoulder now. He now gets to say, no one believed in me, and now I have to go out there and do the work. And from some of the stuff I read, too, it was, hey, guys make mistakes, and they're usually very humble about it or sorry or whatever. And they just got the sense that I was reading from a bunch of different things was he did not seem, I don't want to use the word sorry, but he did not seem like he was toning down anything throughout the process. And that's a red flag for some guys because that's honestly, how do you coach somebody that is like that? So I saw it from all the different angles, and I hope Shedeur uses this to be motivated, but I'm not surprised a guy with a bunch of character stuff, and I don't even mean character stuff in a bad way, just
not in a bad way.
Of what it comes with. I'm not surprised he slipped to the 5th round.
No, here's a few things. Like, if this is about Deion, well, the number 2 overall pick then wouldn't have been one of his players. Okay,
That's
so
right.
It's not. All right, it's not. It is a quarterback. It is his son, and I know there's probably some concern that there'll be the wrong people. Like, the coach needs to know that the coach is the coach, and when you have his son as the quarterback, that's probably a concern for some coaches, especially ones that feel like they're not on solid ground with their organization. So I would believe that that's like maybe a fear. The name you used, and I hate saying this, but like, if you think it's race, the number 1 overall pick was a black quarterback. Again, as it was the year before, as was the number 2 overall pick. And the name that you used is what really stood out to me, which is Caleb Williams. What was said about him a year ago?
Yeah.
We don't like his fingernails. We don't like the clothes he wears. We didn't like that he cried after games. We're not sure that he gets along with his teammates. His dad might be a problem. He's doing interviews and GQ and all this stuff. What's this guy about? Or people get, you know what? His talent is so overwhelming. The Bears took him anyway. So if Shedor's talent was so overwhelming, all of the criticisms would have ultimately been ignored by somebody in the 1st round. It isn't. That's why he wasn't selected in the 1st round or potentially the 2nd round. Should he have ended up in the 5th? That does seem a little much. But once you've gotten to this point, now I think there's some teams going, this is a tough situation with him as a backup now. You know, there's just so much that's going to go into, he's a backup, he should be doing this, the narratives. I think he's in a tough position. But I thought Caleb Williams was the most apt thing that I could get to. Caleb Williams was criticized as well in a lot of different ways about a lot of things about his character. He still went number 1. Why? Because his talent warranted it. Teams will overlook just about anything outside of criminality if you've got the talent. The NFL spoke. They don't think he's that level. And that's really all it is to me.
No, I would agree with that 100%. I would also go in the opposite direction too, of like, go look at Drake May. What was the chatter about Drake May? It was, oh, he's going to have to develop for a little bit for him to be good. He was drafted 3rd overall in a league that everybody wants instant gratification on, and he ended up sitting the first half of the year, and then he looked really good last year. But like, what I'm getting at here is, guys have like GMs and owners, I think they have give and take here. And I just think this was a bad mixture. Somebody that wasn't a slam dunk starting caliber quarterback and somebody that came with a bunch of baggage. If you are not one of those quarterback needy teams, 1, you're staying far, far away from them. 2, if you are one of those quarterback needy teams, like you just said, you had to wait to a certain point because then everyone would have expected him to start anyways. Like, I thought it was really funny. Like, we talk about it all the time. Oh, if someone comes in as a 2nd round pick, oh, the pressure's off of them to start. Well, not him. If he got drafted in the 2nd round this year, the Browns fans would have still expected him to start. So then you had to wait a little bit longer. Yeah, you had to wait a little bit longer to even put that pressure off. 5th round is where it was at with him.
All right, let me take a quick break. We'll just do a couple minutes on the Caps next. Brave watch the show. He's beyond 6:30 Sports Capital.
6 months from now, you could be running a 5K, booking that dream trip, or seeing thicker, fuller hair every time you look in the mirror. Through hers, you can get dermatologist-trusted, clinically proven prescriptions with ingredients that go beyond what over-the-counter products offer. Whether you prefer oral or topical treatments, hers has you covered. Getting started is simple. Just fill out an intake form online, and a licensed provider will recommend a customized plan just for you. The best part? Everything is 100% online. If prescribed, your treatment ships right to your door. No pharmacy trips, no waiting rooms, and no insurance headaches. Plus, treatments start at just $35 a month. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/talk. That's forhers.com/talk. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.
Welcome back. I'll spend a lot more time on the Capitals tomorrow because they play Game 5 tomorrow night at home. But over the weekend, lost in Montreal in a game where they had a million calls against them. And then Tom Wilson did the all-time meme of the crying faces at the Montreal player, which was unbelievably great. They lost. They turned around. They were on the ropes against that team the other night. Had an outstanding third period. Score looks worse than it was because they had a couple empty net goals. Connor McMichael was outrageous. He could have had a hat trick through 2 periods there. And the Caps ended up winning. They're a better team. And then secondarily, God, the good news was Logan Thompson played. Because after what I saw in Game 3, you were texting me their playoff run's over. And then all of a sudden, here he is playing in Game 4. So they dodged a major bullet with him. And I think they're going to close them out tomorrow night.
One on Logan Thompson. Yeah, if he was hurt, I'm sorry. I just didn't think they were going to go that far. So that's where that landed there. Let me start off because I haven't talked to you about Game 3, obviously, because I wasn't here yesterday. I was really disappointed in the Caps in Game 3. They took the bait. That was the phrase I used. Montreal got under their skin. They lost their cool. Yes, I get the Montreal player went to the Caps bench. That's a big no-no, and Wilson rightfully so stood up. But I was super disappointed on just how it unraveled on them on Friday. That crowd was really raucous, loudest crowd I've ever had producing a game. I couldn't hear John Walton at times. It was so loud. So I get it. So I was disappointed when they lost their cool. And all I thought was, all right, Game 4, you need to compose yourselves and not take that bait again. And they did that. And then in the third period, Tom Wilson lays that hit out, and it changed the entire complexion of the game. And I told you this, 1 through 20, you'll take the Caps every time. Montreal has some really good players, but the Caps have a much better roster. So I was just really, really happy that they turned around and didn't take the bait again and now have them on the ropes. I'm with you. I think they're going to close them out. I think you look at moments that kind of define a run. That third period is going to define this series, I think, for the Capitals. Yeah. So I'm glad they settled down. That's exactly what Game 4 was to me. They settled down in Montreal.
I mean, they had a million more chances to have a lead in Game 4. It just didn't happen, and suddenly they're losing, and that was a really raucous place. They were really on the ropes. That was a really great third period that they had. And obviously, Thompson being okay to whatever degree he is keeps the trajectory of potentially winning a Stanley Cup in play, obviously. All right, we'll talk a lot more about it tomorrow as they get set for Game 5. Ray Boston Show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.
Six months from now, you could be running a 5K, booking that dream trip, or seeing thicker, fuller hair every time you look in the mirror. Through hers, you can get dermatologist-trusted, clinically proven prescriptions with ingredients that go beyond what over-the-counter products offer. Whether you prefer oral or topical treatments, hers has you covered. Getting started is simple. Just fill out an intake form online, and a licensed provider will recommend a customized plan just for you. The best part? Everything is 100% online. If prescribed, your treatment ships right to your door. No pharmacy trips, no waiting rooms, and no insurance headaches. Plus, treatments start at just $35 a month. Start your initial free online visit today at forhers.com/talk. That's forhers.com/talk. Compounded products are not FDA approved or verified for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.